This is what it looked like when Arsenal were able to deal with Dembele dropping deep. But for the most part, this is what we saw throughout the match, with the Frenchman picking up the ball in acres of space consistently. So why didn't Arsenal just simply deal with Dembele every single time? Well, at the Emirates, we saw a top-level tactical encounter, every bit as close as the scoreline suggests. And this led to the interesting dynamics we've just touched on. So let's dig into the tactics, beginning with PSG in possession. Parisians always look to build with a back three, and an open play that could present as Nuno Mendes beginning deeper than Hakimi, as we can see in the average position. But Vitinha was just as happy to drop in temporarily, with Mendes then pushing on. And from the goal kick similarly, Donnarumma could be the third man, with the centre-backs instead now wide. Either way, it was always a back three. Now why was this crucial? Well, as always, Arsenal was shifting to a 4-4-2 in the defensive phase, so the back three gave them a +1 advantage. But here's the key. PSG were not aiming to use their extra man to progress the ball with aggressive dribbles, and potentially run into traffic higher up the pitch. No, they wanted to instead bring the gunners onto them, so that more space was being created higher up, and most times this was Bukayo Saka pushing higher up the pitch, and this had devastating knock-on effects. The simplest was it facilitated isolations. See, in open play when Arsenal were in their stable defensive shape, the gunners were highly aware of the danger that Kvaratskhelia presented, and did not want to leave Timber vulnerable. And Saka was tasked with dropping deep to assist whenever it was possible, to make life harder for PSG's winger. By ensuring they had a patient third man who would not advance, it often drew Saka higher up the pitch, meaning that passes down the line would lead to an isolation, which we saw a lot of, particularly early on, with Timber having to bring down the Georgian more than once. Or if Kvaratskhelia was bypassed, it created more space in behind for a potential runner. But here's where it became truly menacing. PSG's midfield would come across to support the third man, threatening to receive in this position, with the winger pushing Timber deeper. And to stop this, it meant that the double pivot for Arsenal were drawn across the pitch, creating a massive chasm in the midfield. A chasm that had Dembele licking his lips. The Frenchman consistently dropped deep and was able to turn. So the question is, why did Arsenal not have men follow him deep? Well, firstly, a front three like this is incredibly dangerous, as if a man is drawn out of position, there is the chance that Dembele can directly turn him. Or, if he doesn't, Kvaratskhelia or Doué, later replaced by Barcola, would have potential isolations against their defender with no cover in behind, which is a position that no manager wants to be in defensively. So for the most part, the centre-backs remained deep. This culminated in the goal. Mendes is the third man and draws Saka high, and we see Kvaratskhelia was beginning to draw Timber deeper on the pitch as well, and Ruiz and Vitinha were drawing the double pivot across the pitch. So now Dembele has the room to receive, helped by Doué, Hakimi and Neves pushing ahead of him and pinning the centre-backs deep. Dembele has all the space in the world to drive. And crucially, because Saka was drawn higher up to the third man, now it is Rice that has to come across to double-team Kvaratskhelia, creating the temporary room for Dembele to get the scuffed shot off. Once again, we've just brushed past a couple of key factors. After the early success, Saliba did flirt with the idea of consistently dropping deep with Dembele, like we see here, where he does force Dembele backwards, though you can already see the danger emerging, as Dembele does then leave Saliba behind. The reason this wasn't consistent was the sheer fluidity of PSG. Essentially, aside from the centre-backs, every position you see on the pitch now was variable, with constant rotations. And it wasn't the slow, methodical rotations sometimes associated with positional play teams, where players simply switch positions and then remain stationary. No, this was perpetual motion. So Dembele could drop deep, and in the same moment, Hakimi or João Neves would be running beyond the centre-backs. The potential for those spaces vacated to immediately be occupied by a new rotation made the Arsenal backline extremely hesitant to follow deep. This led to situations like this, where the Arsenal backline is effectively picking up no one, allowing PSG to have easy possession here, contributing to them dominating the ball, particularly in the first half. Late on, we got a sample of what could happen if an Arsenal man did fall deep, with Kiwior being drawn to Barcola and Neves, creating a space that Ramos attacks. Now, Saliba is drawn to the man, and Barcola gets into a 1 versus 1. dynamic rotations, constant problems. And out of possession, PSG were fierce in the counter-press. But it's when Arsenal were in control possession that their defensive shape got more interesting. Early on, the PSG press shape looked like this, with Dembele joined by Doué to press the centre-backs, while Hakimi and Kvaratskhelia in the wider regions, with either Ruiz or Neves trying to back up the press as much as they could. Arsenal in the build-up were often a lopsided 2-3, with Timber pushing here early on in the match, and in the second half, pushing all the way up when Saka began to attack the centre earlier. But Hakimi often found himself caught in no man's land. Lewis Skelly's inverted position meant that where usually Hakimi is pressing the opposing fullback, now with no direct man to cover, Hakimi was often undecided on whether to follow Lewis Skelly infield or maintain a more traditional right-back role. This created opportunities for Lewis Skelly to make the difference in a couple of different ways, as we see. Here, his indecision means that he arrives slightly late, allowing Lewis Skelly to turn him and then play an incredible ball into the vacated region behind Marquinhos. Or here, where Hakimi doesn't join the press, but a lack of communication means that Lewis Skelly now receives unchallenged and drives into a dangerous zone. As the second half wore on, Enrique made a subtle but important tweak to address this, with the midfielder, often Ruiz, now joining the forward, allowing the right winger to now track Lewis Skelly and Hakimi to remain in a deeper, more secure position. As always, not every single play from both sides could be covered in the video, but I'll be in the comments, so make sure you drop anything else I did not mention down below. And let me know how you see the second leg going. And if you've always wanted to learn tactical analysis to a high level and transform your tactical understanding, now is the time. Tactical Mastery, my proven step-by-step system to master tactical analysis, is now live and available at an exclusive early bird price. For years you've asked how you can learn tactical analysis, and I get it, there's not much out there that explains tactics in depth but in a simple manner. When I began learning analysis nearly a decade ago, I faced the exact same frustrations. Instructors using complex jargon to sound clever rather than to teach, big organizations charging you a bunch then treating you like just another number, companies splitting content into dozens of modules to charge you separately for each, and subscription traps designed to charge you forever. But Tactical Mastery breaks down analysis brick by brick from the fundamentals to advanced concepts in the same straightforward style you know from the channel, with no charging per module, no subscriptions, no unnecessary complexity, and access to myself and a community of other analysts. The singular focus of the program is helping you master tactical analysis as efficiently as possible. By the end of the program, you'll gain the confidence to dissect any match, identify patterns invisible to most fans, and experience football at a level that transforms your relationship with the beautiful game. So if you're ready to finally master tactical analysis, click the link down in the comments or the description below.